Hey everybody, Ben with Kryptonite here, and I'm with Chris at Alpine Designs, and behind us we have our 2022 that has almost 10,000 miles on it. And we're going to talk about it, and we're going to show you the parts that are on it. So in terms of reliability, behind us here is our 2022. Now this 2022 has 10,000 miles on it. We learned a lot of things on this car, and where the factory fell short, we picked it up and made better parts for it. And that's where we really leveled things up with this 2025 here. Now this 2022, it's had some big tires on it since day one, right?
Correct. Yeah, we've got almost 10,000 miles on this car, 4 sets of tires, and all of the same Kryptonite products that we put on this car in 2022, brand new when it rolled into the shop, and it's all performed great.
This is awesome, because I know the guy who drives this, and he's not easy on parts. So this 2022 was the inspiration for a lot of our parts meant to fix with where the OEM pretty much left off and decided to fall short. So what have we done to this thing?
So of course we had to start off with all of the Kryptonite products. Like I said, it's a major R&D project here. 2022 we brought this car in and really started looking at the weak points, you know, kind of went online and found out what people were having fail on them, and we were able to work with you guys to really improve a lot of the parts on this car, along with customize it and really upgrade the overall aesthetic and the functionality of the car altogether.
So from day one, this car's had 35s on it, and it's been very heavy after it left here, especially with all the upgrades on there. So on the front of this car, we've got our wheel bearings on there, we've got our ball joints, we've got our tie rods, we've got our shock forks with cups, and we also have our sway bar end links. Now all these parts have worked very well for us, like I said, over 10,000 miles. One of the things we had to address for sure were the ball joints. What kind of failures have you seen in these cars with ball joints?
So from the factory ball joints, obviously we're seeing a lot of clip failures, and once that clip fails, the ball joint can come out of the arm and it causes a lot of other parts to fail down the line. So you could lose an axle, you could lose a lower arm, even some shock parts and the shock forks breaking off. So these ball joints are the first line of defense against breakages and failures out on the trail.
Absolutely, and taking that inspiration from the 3/4 and 1 ton truck market, having to be heavy duty, we took that technology, brought it right into the ball joints for the side-by-sides, and they've worked flawlessly so far. So as Chris was saying, when the ball joints do fail, you typically have a shock fork failure right where the threads meet the shaft. So when that happens, what's typically the fix for the car?
Typically, we obviously have to go in, replace the broken shock shaft, which can be costly. You could be a couple $1,000s in replacing a shock if something fails. With the upgraded shock forks, it actually captures the shaft of the shock and keeps everything nice and stout, to where if you do have a failure, you're much less likely to have any kind of actual shock breakage or something that's going to leave you stranded out on the trail.
Yeah, absolutely. They're stronger, and if I do say so myself, they look a hell of a lot better. The stock tie rods on these cars leave a lot to be desired. They are fairly thin, especially if you're running 35s on there or larger wheels and tires and running it hard, chances are you're going to buckle one. Well, we put our Kryptonite tie rods on here and they have worked very well. So in your experience, when tie rods fail, is it like stock wheel size, going down the street, or is it like using really hard?
They're obviously going to be pushing the car really hard to make that kind of part fail. The stock steering is definitely a lot left to be desired in the design and strength area, but with the Kryptonite parts, you know, you're running a 1-inch solid hex, and it's 10 times stronger than what you would have from factory, and especially at your pivot point. You're not losing any kind of angle for your droop on your suspension or steering angle from it. You're just basically gaining a lot of strength and longevity out of it.
Yeah, I love the fact that clevis is on the inside. The only time that becomes a limitation is if your tires are touching. And if your tires are touching, something else is terribly wrong.
Time to check out these 2 Pro Rs behind me. Let's see how they stack up. With this Pro R build, we set out to build something super reliable that we can put tons and tons of miles on, just like the 22 we built a few years back. Starting off with the front end, there's nothing better than having tons and tons of light on one of these cars to where you can see at night and push through the dust. You can see the difference between the 2022 here. We only did the dual amber squadrons on the bumper here. On the 25, we did upgrade and add a 3rd one because we're lacking a little bit in the amber department down low, cutting through that dust. We were also able to upgrade from an XL80 to an LP4 series light. Gives you a lot more light spread and gives you some options on putting light out widthwise and also out in front of you for those high-speed trails. We went with Baja Designs on these cars throughout. As you can see, both cars have Baja Designs rock lights. There's almost 12 lights on each one of these cars. They put out tons of light. That way when you're cruising at night, whether it's on a trail or you hop out to grab a beverage out of the cooler, you got plenty of light around the car where you can see. We kept the same styling on the cage, brought the cage down a little bit lower, and also kept our removable front dash panel. This gives you the flexibility to be able to pull it off in the summer if it does get a little hot. You can get some airflow through the car, or in these cold winter nights, you can pop it on, keep the air off you, turn on the heated seats, and stay nice and warm while you're cruising through the desert or on your favorite trail. The 22, you can see we were running the same RST style seat, and we stuck with that for this 2025 build. Changed up the styling and the color scheme to match the 2025 color scheme. In 2022, when this car first rolled into the shop, bone stock, the first thing that went out on it was the shift cables. It was a poor design from factory, and the ball ends on the end of the shifter cable actually left the owner stranded out in the desert. So one of the first things that Kryptonite did was went ahead and designed an awesome dual bearing design with a billet shifter housing that totally eliminates the grab and pull from the shifter cables and gives you a much smoother shift and gives you the peace of mind knowing that you're not going to have any failures in that department. So on both of these cars, we did upgrade all of the steering, sway bar links, ball joints, and wheel bearings to give us some peace of mind with Kryptonite products. Everything has been solid on this 22 for almost 10,000 miles, and we're going to do the same torture test on this new 2025. So one of the big changes that we made on these cars, the suspension on these cars is almost identical, but we did go ahead and change up our shock tuning. The 22 model, we went with shock therapy, revalve, respring. On the 2025, we went with MTS suspension. We're now an MTS authorized dealer, so we're able to do valving, dual rate kits, and add the Kryptonite shock forks here in the shop. So we can tune it specific for our customers' needs. We're really excited to see this thing out in the desert and see how the two match up.
So with this 2022 behind us, we've learned a lot. What we have learned is that our parts are doing their job and they're being used hard, which is very nice. But we've also seen some other stuff on the car that maybe most of you are going to encounter after 10,000 miles. So what have you seen on this thing?
So the drivetrain from factory, Polaris did a pretty good job on. The motor, the differentials, even some of the axles have been absolutely solid, no issues. These cars, we typically don't see a ton of failures because everything is so beefy. Just normal wear and tear. We see, bushings and ball joints and stuff like that from factories going out prematurely. Once we've upgraded, everything seems to be solid.
Now, as far as engine on this vehicle, what have you done to protect that and make it last as many miles?
So the big thing, just with like anything else, is service, service, service. Over-servicing is obviously better than running long on your miles. On oil changes, whether it's differentials, transmission service, all of that is critical. Staying up on that and keeping everything maintenance and happy is ideal. Keep it running long and make it to that 10,000 mile mark.
Absolutely. We also have an S&B particle separator on this thing, which is probably hands down the absolute single best thing you do on this engine to make it last a long time, because these things are in really, non-dirty environments, right?
Perfectly clean all the time.
Yeah, all the time. Don't even need an air filter almost. We appreciate you guys watching, especially the compare and contrast between these two cars right here. We're really excited to see how this one does out there with all the new parts on it. So Chris, I really appreciate you and putting all this time to work and this really cool car behind me right here, because as cool as that 10,000 mile car is, this one's got my vote.
Yeah, can't wait to see what another 10,000 miles holds for us, and maybe we'll be back in the same spot here in another couple of years with a new car, doing it all over again.
Absolutely. Thanks for watching.